Hello and welcome to the newest edition of the Five in the Midfield podcast. Today I am joined by, unfortunately, only two other people for this episode. We have a couple of spring vacation / out of town people this week. So today we have Corbin, Matt, and myself to cover a little bit of MLS and a little bit of Premier League for this episode. But for the Premier League, we're going to be actually looking more specifically, I would say, at the FA Cup quarterfinal draw. But again, before we get into all that, we do want to start with the MLS and the kind of biggest, not necessarily the biggest news, but the big sort of talking point a lot of people have been talking about in the MLS off the start was Sebastian Yaget's recent comments about playing in LA post Zlatan. The direct quote was, you couldn't be free. It was super frustrating. You feel like you want to literally take your boots off and just walk off the field. And then, of course, he later added that there was definitely a better feel around the place with Chicharito in it and how he has impacted the LA Galaxy versus how Zlatan did. So I guess my opening question for you guys is when you have a player like Zlatan who I think we can all kind of assume wants a lot of the ball playing through him, and he wants, a lot of responsibility when he's on the pitch. Do you guys buy into this take that potentially it's easier to play without someone who is potentially as good of a player as Zlatan just because of how much he's trying to take control of the game?
Oh my fucking god, 1,000,000,000%. Literally 1,000,000% I believe him. With every bone in my body, I believe everything he said has to be factual. And I don't know if it's because like I don't really think it's because like he wanted the ball all the time and like he wanted everything to go through him. I think it's literally because of how big his ego was on and off the field, how he made everything about it, everything in LA for the season and a half he was here, right? Season and a half or
Yeah.
so. He made everything about him, no matter whether it was on the field, whether it was the battle with Carlos Vela, whether it was, it could have been MLS related or it could have been Laker game related. Like, it literally did not matter. Everything was about Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Like, that dude thought he was a bigger influence on American culture than LeBron James. And I actually cannot believe I can't believe that Sebastian Lletget came out and like actually said it. But I'm really happy he did because, I definitely don't think he lied about anything. To be honest with you.
I think it's something we all saw coming to an extent. Zlatan still being a dominant European player when he was at PSG, and then just randomly moving to the MLS. It seemed like he still had a lot to give, and he proved in the MLS he did have a lot to give. And now back in Italy, it seemed like a random move, and with that, we all knew his ego was going to be elevated, and then on the field, he was going to demand more from his teammates. He's coming from a team that competes for Champions League, for a Champions League title year in and year out. He's coming from a team that wins their domestic cups and their league title every single season. And now he's going to be in a league where it's super competitive. You not only have to win the regular season title, then you have to go in the playoffs and perform the same. So we all knew Zlatan was going to demand an unreasonable amount from his MLS level teammates. Um, so I think it's less so about off the pitch and more so about on the pitch, because with Chicharito in, it definitely is a different style of play. And that's why I picked Christian Pavone as my MVP this season, was because with Zlatan there, back to goal, backing into that last defender, you don't have space to run in behind. Chicharito's more fall into the midfield, collect the ball, turn and find something, allowing the wingers for the Galaxy to run in behind. So it definitely is a different style of play. And when, like, looking at what Sebastian Yaget said, you feel it was super frustrating. You feel like you literally want to take off your boots and walk off the field. I'm sure that has to do with the fact that Zlatan is so arrogant on the field. He refused, like it. Watching him in the MLS, it seemed like nothing could ever be his fault. And to an extent, I will say that is true, because he was skillfully, probably he was the best player in the MLS. Skillfully, he's the best player in the MLS when he was here.
Oh, cut it out.
Talent wise.
Cut it out.
I would agree for
talent.
sure.
Corbin,
I don't think.
he was
Did you
scoring
watch
30
Carlos Vela
goals
last season?
He was scoring 30 goals a season at PSG, and then at 38 now, he's back at starting for AC Milan.
Yeah, because
Carlos
AC
Vela is a
Milan
good.
sucks, dude. AC Milan is not a good football.
Okay,
They're not
Corbin.
a good football
That's
team.
not.
I'm
That's
sorry,
the
they're
point.
not.
He is playing for a historic European side who still is a top 10 in Serie A.
Yeah,
The
I
argument is not
understand
whether
that
or not
point.
AC Milan is as good as Juventus right now. Zlatan Ibrahimovic came to the MLS, dominating France. Came and dominated the MLS. He didn't score the MLS record goals like Vela did, but talent-wise, he is the best player any field he stepped on in the MLS.
Except for when they played LAFC.
And then he proved it by getting a contract overseas in one of the best leagues in the world again, whereas Carlos Vela is stuck in the MLS.
I don't think.
Well, I will just
I'm
side
gonna
note.
be
I
on.
will.
Go. Sorry,
I was
sorry,
gonna
Ben,
say,
you can
I
go.
will just side note. For the record, I do think Zlatan on paper, well, not on paper, but I do think Zlatan was the best player in the Premier League. But I would definitely agree with the sentiment that Corbin has that Carlos Vela had a better season last year.
He broke the goal record. I'm not arguing.
And Carlos Vela is my MVP pick for this year, so let's get the bag 2 years in a row, Carlos Vela.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm not
I'm gonna
arguing
be
that
honest.
Vela was the most.
I don't even know if he was second.
Dominant, yeah.
Corbin, we're talking talent-wise. We're talking pure soccer talent. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, one of the best strikers of his generation, still scoring 30 goals as of
Listen,
2 years ago.
I understand. I completely understand that he was, yes, probably the most decorated player to ever walk through the MLS besides David Beckham.
I'm
But
talking pure talent.
pure talent. And in the time he was here, I don't know if he was the top player or maybe
Well,
even second.
I don't know what to tell you then, Corbin. I mean, there's just what?
What do you mean, what?
Let's just go back to it. Carlos Vela is not being no European team. Whether or not you think AC Milan is bad, they're first of all not objectively speaking, they're not a bad team. They
What do you mean
struggle to
objectively
score.
speaking?
They're a top 10 Serie A team.
Okay.
Is that bad?
I mean, it's definitely not what they should be.
They haven't been European relevant in 6 or 7 years since Zlatan left in 2013, 2012.
Yeah, and they
They
still
haven't been
suck
European
now.
relevant. They don't suck. They are still AC Milan. They are still a top 10 Serie A team. And they looked at the MLS and said, what player would we want? Who in the world can we get for the cheap that can provide goals? And they chose Zlatan, and he proved immediately. He scored in his debut with Milan.
I'm pretty sure they got him for free, and that's because he
Yeah,
keeps
'cause they
ending
got-
contract.
They got him for
He keeps
cheap.
ending contracts early because he's a bum.
But they could have gotten Carlos Vela for less than 10 million. He's 30 years old.
That's
He's 30 years
potentially
old
true.
coming from the MLS. They could have gotten him for less than 10 million.
Probably factual, yes.
So they looked at all around the world who is a attacking player that we can get for the cheap, who's going to be an immediate impact, because AC Milan have struggled to score goals this season. And they chose Zlatan Ibrahimovic because he has a proven track record and he is still as dominant as he was with PSG. Carlos Vela is a fantastic MLS player. He's fast and has good skill moves. You know what MLS defenders struggle against? Fast players who can kick the ball past them and run. Zlatan is a 6'5", back to goal, back into the defender player. MLS defenders are strong. Like, that is the one thing that they have. They are strong players. So,
Which is why
Zlatan
I'm
still
saying
scored 20
objectively
goals a season.
Which is why I'm saying objectively he was not the best player here.
Carlos Vela scored more goals. Yeah, Carlos Vela deserved the MVP last year. Yes, but talent-wise, if you're telling me we're going into the MLS Cup final, you can pick one striker. You're taking one attacker. You're taking Carlos Vela over Zlatan Ibrahimovic last season?
10 times out of 10.
Oh my goodness, Corbin. Can we getting back? Okay, that's we had a fun.
Well, hold on.
Debate.
I actually.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Please.
So what I would say is, I mean, it's all fair. However you would want to build your own squad, but I think one striker that we weren't putting into that category was Josef Martinez,
and I
who,
was
of
ready
course,
to.
recently has now suffered a ACL injury and will be out for the foreseeable future. Corbin, that was your MVP.
Yep, it
so
was.
I guess before we talk about who your new MVP is going to be, because we're allowing you to change it this one time, you're getting a mulligan on us. If you had the options between Carlos Vela, Zlatan, and Josef Martinez, Which one would you pick between the three of those?
I would still take Carlos Vela first.
All right. Well,
I would
that's
take
my
Carlos.
MVP, so.
I would take Carlos Vela first. Dude, I might take Joseph Martinez second. He's an instinctive killer.
Matt, what's your order here?
Matt's about to
give
hit
me
up
your
the
order.
phone.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Matt's
Okay,
about to
so
hit
Matt,
up.
the question.
Let me clarify. I was too busy texting Colin that Corbin thinks Carlos Vela
Oh
is better.
no, that's
than
fine.
Zlatan.
Okay, Matt. Okay, here's the question.
Yeah.
You got Joseph Martinez, Zlatan, Carlos Vela.
Yeah.
In order, you get them 1, 2, 3. What's your order right now? As far as like if you were starting a team, the one you're taking.
If I'm starting a team, give me.
You got a full season to play. We're not talking just playoffs. We're not talking just championship game.
Give me Zlatan first, okay? In the season and a half he was here, how many goals did he was comparable on goals with Joseph Martinez and Carlos Vela. It's not like his production was significantly less. Carlos Vela had a historic season, but Zlatan was still scoring upper 20s. Did he get to 30 goals? I think Zlatan still got to 30 goals, right? Something like that. So give me Zlatan.
Close,
yeah. Somebody's looking that up, I'm sure. So give me Zlatan first. I will build a team around a 6'5", one of the best strikers in the 21st century. I will build a team around that player, regardless of what Sebastian Yaquet says. Give me. See, that's tough because Carlos Vela, both fantastic players. Joseph Martinez has had 3 seasons of dominance in the MLS.
And he also had a historic season in the season that Zlatan came here.
Right.
Because he broke the
Carlos Vela broke
the record first.
Record.
Yeah.
I think I would have. It's a coin flip, really. I would have to take. I wouldn't have to. I would take Joseph Martinez over Carlos Vela, just barely.
So, just for the record, Matt.
Yeah.
So while Zlatan was in the MLS, he played 56 games and scored 52 goals.
That is stupid. That is dumb. And Corbin, you know what? You're dumb too.
Sure.
Yeah.
We can talk about this all night long, Matt. We got stuff to get to.
Okay. So on that list, give me Zlatan, and then Zlatan for sure number 1, and then in a coin flip decision, Joseph Martinez over Carlos Vela.
Yeah, well, Corbin, let's just move straight over from this conversation to the Joseph Martinez conversation. Of course, we don't really have to touch on his injury because, frankly, none of us are doctors, and we're probably not going to have too much to say about what a torn ACL looks like. I think we're all very clear what that looks like. But, I mean, you sprained your PCL, which is not the same thing. But
Corbin would know he sprained his PCL by digging his toe into the dirt.
Yep.
The fun one for sure. But what you can speak on, Corbin, is the fact that your MVP is now out for the rest of the season and you get to pick a new one. So go ahead and give us your thought process here as you pick a new MVP for the MLS.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I spent the first 2 hours after that news broke the other day of just trying to think about what that meant, not to just Atlanta United, but to the MLS in general. So obviously that Atlanta will lose their number 1 attacker or their number 1 goal scorer, which lands a massive amount of responsibility on Ezequiel Barco and Pity Martinez, which, don't get me wrong, I think they can handle the goals between them, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Atlanta United play without a star point up front. But with that being said, I am going to say my new MVP, and I said this before he went off in week 1. My new MVP will be Jordan Morris of the Seattle Sounders. And that is going to be that's if he can stay healthy, which last season he did, and he did really well. And I think, he scored twice in the first game in the first game against Chicago. So
Corbin,
we definitely got off to a good start. Sorry.
Before you lock in that answer, Corbin, I am going to say one thing. Okay. He has been injury prone before, and we're not letting you pick another new one if he gets hurt too. You don't get a third MVP.
So be it.
All right.
No,
No,
we'll
that's
play.
fair.
Actually, you know what? We'll play Fantasy Premier League roles. You get the free hit if that happens. Yeah.
Well, Corbin, funnily enough for me, on our show notes, the next thing to literally talk about was Jordan Morris's week 1 dominance. So
Yep.
go ahead and just segue us straight from picking your MVP, talking about how good your MVP was in the first week and a half or so of MLS play.
Dude, he's nasty. He's so, I mean, like Matt said, speed, fast players in MLS do really well. Jordan Morris is historically a fast player. And I mean, especially he got an entire season off, and last year he came back and was very dominant. In the first week, he came back again, did really well, scored a couple of goals. Had a nice little tap in for Seattle's game winner, which everyone thought was offsides. Thank God it wasn't. But yeah, he looked really good. He looks lively. He looks lively again today against Columbus, and I think that's really something that I'm expecting from him. And hopefully, he just turns it into points at some point, and we'll turn it into goals, assists,
The
and end up being Seattle wins.
the Columbus game went final, right?
No, they're in the 64th minute at the current moment.
64th minute.
Yeah.
Oh, right, because it's in Seattle tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I mean, obviously now that you've picked Jordan Morris as your new MVP, it'll be interesting definitely to track his performances moving forward. But let's go ahead and hop across the pod now to the Premier League. And there's a couple of different things we wanted to cover. The main one, of course, being the FA Cup quarterfinal draw. But I do actually want to start with Manchester United because, of course, of the night that we are recording this, Manchester United Man City is tomorrow morning. So I know, Corbin, specifically, you're going to have some thoughts on that game, obviously being a United fan. But before we do that, I know we had something planned for you specifically because you wanted to talk about Bruno Fernandez's impact. So I'm going to let you start there, and then we can kind of just segue straight from there into the United versus City game tomorrow morning.
Okay. Bruno Fernandez has been, I mean, exactly what we were hoping for him to be. Obviously, I don't want to jump full into give this guy the key to the city yet, because as we know, things can go off the rails pretty quickly. But in the first few games, he looks, I mean, he looks like a killer. He looks like an attacking mid who, I mean, he just wants to play forward. He just wants to get the ball forward. He's not interested in playing back passes. He's not interested in trying to build up from the back. I mean, he wants to go forward. He wants to play the English game. He wants to get the ball and go forward and run at defenders. In that game against Everton, especially, I mean, we saw he picked up the ball about 25, 30, or I guess he didn't really pick it up. He got a pass about 25 yards from goal, lets it run across his body, and then takes a shot. Pickford probably should have done better, but that's okay. He didn't because he's inconsistent, and that's cool. But he definitely looks a goal scorer. He definitely looks a consistent attacker, and he is someone that is picking up a lot of steam right now. And going into the City game tomorrow, I'm hoping he'll be able to do the same thing. I don't really know how City's going to line up because I don't believe Aymeric Laporte will be playing tomorrow. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how they line up with Fernandinho in center back again. I don't know when he'll play his next game at holding mid like he's supposed to be playing. But that is something that I'm really interested to see is when or how Bruno Fernandez can take on a legitimate team, can take on a team who is a title contender consistently. And I think tomorrow's going to be a big. I think tomorrow is pretty much going to be the mark of what is this team going to look like in the not so distant future and going forward for now.
And I mean, even just for like recency purposes, I mean, this game has huge implications for you guys as far as making Champions League or Europa League. I mean, currently as we sit, you're 1 point out of a Europa League spot, tied with Sheffield United for total games played at 28. Obviously, a couple different teams have points in hand, or games in hand, excuse me. But I think Manchester United really need a result here against City tomorrow to kind of just prove that not necessarily like specifically that the Bruno Fernandez deal has worked, but I think just in general to prove like that they are actually on the rise again potentially, and looking to finish out the last 9 games or so strong in the Premier League.
Yeah, and I mean tomorrow's going to be a big day for that top 4 as well, because City and United play in the late morning, but right before that is Chelsea Everton too. And
Right,
if Chelsea lose that game and United win, then they'll be level on points again. But as I've seen this season,
right.
whenever United have a chance to go level on points with Chelsea or take them over, they don't do it. So I'm not expecting a lot tomorrow, to be honest with you.
And if I was gonna say as well, and obviously the Monday game is Leicester City, so
Yeah,
obviously they're playing Aston Villa, so you do assume that they will get the points from that. But I mean, they're only 5 points ahead of Chelsea, and if Chelsea loses, Man United wins, all of a sudden you're 5 points from third. So
yeah, I don't know, mate. I mean, Jack Grealish is over there. He can do some nasty things at any time.
Yeah, I know Matt's a big advocate.
Yeah, we got that Jack Grealish James Madison matchup, which is absolutely exciting.
That's must see TV for any.
It is must see English TV.
That's must see TV for any English person with like gray hair.
I'm actually convinced that Gareth Southgate is going to make his England Euro squad decisions based solely on this game. Who he's going to start, Jack Grealish or James Madison?
Hot take.
It's Gareth Southgate's going to be in attendance. He's going to make his decision tomorrow or on Monday night.
Game kicks off right at 4 p.m. We might have to make a pub move for that one, boys.
We might.
Do I work on Monday? I work at like 11 on Monday. We can make a pub, I work until 11 on Monday. Let's make a pub move for that game.
We could definitely make a pub move. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. So let's do predictions. We'll treat it like we were, doing our Champions League predictions and reviews and all that stuff. So let's go ahead. Matt, I'm going to start with you because you haven't said too much about City United yet. What is your prediction for the game tomorrow?
I mean, United have been looking really good. And is the City Champions League game, is that Tuesday or Wednesday this week? That's next week, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, that'll be next week. So
yeah, that won't impact this game at all. And with the way United's been looking, what's the stat I saw? United, the last 3 times City have gone to United, City have gotten 3 points. Is that right?
That's probably factual.
I saw that stat.
That's probably factual.
Can't say for sure if that's true, but I know. So the last 5 games that they've played against each other was November 11th of 2018. Man City won 3-1. That looks like at City. And then Man City won 2-0 at Old Trafford in the Premier League in April of last year. And then they won. And then Man United beat them in December of this year at City.
That was in the League Cup, though.
No, that was the Premier League one. The League Cup one was in January.
Oh.
And City won that one 3-1.
Well,
and then
we went to City in the League Cup and beat them, but I don't. Was that February, really?
No. So the last 5 matches is City 1-0 MANU in the Carabao Cup. That's January 29th of 2020. There's Man United 1-3 in the Carabao Cup as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Man United beat City in December. That was in Premier League.
Huh.
But either way, point being.
So,
I mean, seems like, so the last 2 times that City have gone, at least for their last 5 meetings, the last 2 times that City have gone to Trafford, they have won the game. 2-0 and 3-1. So
it's hard. I don't want to say that. Ole has struggled against the Big 6, unquestionably, right? I can't see United getting out with more than a point. I think it will be an exciting game, and it could come down to the last 5 minutes. I'm gonna go City 4-3 on this one. I think we'll have an exciting.
Wow,
game.
We are having no defense in this game.
Premier League, man. There's games. Some of these games just get into that, and with the way Bruno Fernandez has revitalized United's attack and City having their typical attack going, it'll be an exciting one. Manchester Derby, one to remember. 4-3 City.
it definitely looks like a Big 12 football matchup to me, but we're definitely thinking I don't want to go against Manchester United, and that's the bad thing. We're playing
That's
well.
okay. I'm not either. There, Corbin.
We're playing well enough
I
to think I can win the game, but also like knowing what Man City bring to the table and knowing what they can play with, it's so frightening to think about. Like they will turn it on at any time. Now I don't know how much Pep's eyes are already on the game against Real Madrid. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's still a game to play between this United game
Yeah,
and
over a
that
week
one.
away if
Yeah,
we're using that as an
actually
excuse.
there might be two. There might be two games before that for them because they still have to play Arsenal midweek.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be. I don't really want to use that as an excuse because I don't think it will come into play that much. But Kevin De Bruyne versus Fred, I as well as Fred is playing right now, I don't feel too comfortable with that matchup. I do feel comfortable with Bruno Fernandez running at Rodri. I don't think Rodri can play defense that well. And Fernandinho is going to probably have to play center back again for the umpteenth time. And I'm assuming he will be next to either. Is John Stones healthy? If he is, it's going to be him. But I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see how City line up. Unfortunately, I won't see the game live. I am at work tomorrow until 4, so I won't see the game until tomorrow night. But it should be interesting to watch, and I am going to go with United. I don't know why. I don't know how I see it getting done, but I am going to go with United 2-1 winning. I'm going to say on a late penalty given to us by VAR. I'm going to say it.
Take it with a grain of salt. This is the same guy who thinks Carlos Vela is a better soccer player than Zlatan.
Yeah, you're right. I like my hot takes, Matt. I have my takes, some of them good, some of them bad.
Yeah, so looking at the injury list for Man City, it looks like Man City is going to, or injury and suspensions, excuse me. But it looks like Kevin De Bruyne, they're thinking, might not actually be able to play tomorrow. He had a back injury.
Yeah.
But so they're saying Kevin De Bruyne, Aymeric Laporte, and Leroy Sané all won't play tomorrow. It looks like for City. So John
Leroy
Stones, I
Sané's
guess.
been out a long time, so we knew.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but so it seems like John Stones, at least from what people are thinking, will actually be in the lineup tomorrow.
Be available. So
or be available.
It's either going to be him or Otamendi. If it's Otamendi, then boy, is it going to be a good one. Because Otamendi is one of those guys who sucks at defense. And I think Bruno Fernandez and Tony
just one of those center backs that can't play defense.
Yeah, I mean, hey, to be fair, I was one of those. I was a center back that couldn't play defense for half a season.
All right, give yourself a little credit. Come on.
No, but it's so hard to do that.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, so tomorrow should be good, but I'm not really sure because I want to see how everything lines up. I want to see how the two teams line up, and then I can really think positively or negatively because it should be an interesting one to watch, especially the United defense and how decent they've looked of recent going against a vibrant City attack from every angle.
I've just realized, Corbin, you were talking earlier about how Manchester United won in the Premier League this year against City and in the Carabao Cup. Yeah. I think ESPN's head-to-head record for the last 5 games is actually wrong because I just read that on another article that is the case. So I don't know like what I was reading or why ESPN seemingly has it wrong, but
because that's a handball, but City won the first game of the Carabao Cup and it was at United. And
I see that one, but then you guys
we went to City in the second leg and won 1-0.
Yeah, so they on ESPN playing. Got it. So so on ESPN it says that City won 1-0, which is I think is where the confusion was for some reason. But
yeah, I don't remember City winning 1-0, but
no. Yeah, and actually if you click on the link, it says that Manchester United won, so that's just like extra funny. But anyway, not a huge difference. But I guess I'll give predictions as well. I basically have cornered myself because if you guys remember, previously predicted that I thought Manchester United was actually going to finish top 4 still. So I basically have to say that they're going to win this game because I don't know how they would do it without. Well, there is still a possibility they could. It just gets much harder if they don't. So I, for the sake of keeping my prediction alive, am going to predict that Manchester United will win. And I'm going to say Manchester United is going to win 2-0. How about that?
I would appreciate that.
Some good defense for Manchester United, which doesn't happen a lot, but maybe this time. But
I can't believe in a prediction of Man City versus Man U. Me predicting Man City would be the bold prediction.
I'm
not gonna say that's a bold prediction. I'm pretty sure Matt,
I think Corbin. Here. Yeah, I think Corbin and I have definitely played our cards incorrectly, but that's okay. Anyway, so I guess now, if you guys want to, we can go ahead and move on to the FA Cup quarterfinal draw. I know we had just a couple of topics we wanted to touch on for the 4 matchups that were drawn. So I guess we'll just start in the list that I have here. So the first one, and probably the best matchup, I would argue, maybe Sheffield Arsenal could challenge this one for sure, but Chelsea and Leicester City is the first one I have. And I know both of these teams have been in some pretty weird up and down form recently. I mean, Chelsea has been more down than up, I would say, but generally speaking, do you guys have any opening thoughts on the Chelsea versus Leicester FA Cup draw?
It's a fun one. The reason I wanted to talk about the FA Cup is just because a lot of the teams in it are very relevant teams. I mean, traditional top 6 is City, Chelsea, United, Arsenal. All 4 still in it. And then Sheffield, top 5 in the Premier League. Leicester, number 3 in the Premier League. And then 2 other Premier League teams. Usually with the FA Cup, you get how it's supposed to play out. I shouldn't say supposed to, but the reason it's a relevant cup is because it gives lower division sides, championship sides, the chance to compete with these big teams. But here we are in the quarterfinals, and it's just the big names. So I think it's just interesting how it's played out this year. For Chelsea,
it's almost chalked here, right?
Yeah, exactly. To where we are now. Obviously, along the way there were upsets, but in the end, to the quarterfinals. Norwich and Newcastle still top division sides. They're the 2 worst in it. But yeah, looking at Chelsea, Leicester, it's a fun game because you don't know what to predict. You don't know what either side is going to bring to the table because they are both so inconsistent at the moment.
That's kind of their own fault, honestly.
Yeah. So it's fun. We can talk about here's how Chelsea's going to line up. Here's how Leicester's going to. We already know how Leicester's going to line up. They don't change that too often. It's just how those guys play. But we can talk about that. But it's just who's feeling it on that day. Because these 2 teams, you don't know who's going to bring it. You don't know who's not going to bring it with these 2.
Well, do you guys want to do predictions for these?
Yeah, we can do quick ones. We don't have to justify the prediction.
Yeah, just for fun.
Yeah, give me Leicester City 3-1 in this one.
Give me 2-1 Chelsea.
I actually, you know what? Let me add on one thing. That is if Jamie Vardy starts. He has been bad as of recently. But
terrible.
Yeah, I mean his goal production is almost non-existent in the last 8 weeks?
Yeah,
8 Premier League weeks, match games.
Basically since 2020 started, almost.
Yeah. Actually. But if he starts, I'm confident in saying Leicester will put 3 past Chelsea.
What was your prediction?
2-1 Chelsea.
Gotcha. So I do have one question for you, Corbin. Just a general question about Chelsea. Do you think that Chelsea, I mean, obviously right now, probably not, but in general this season, do you actually think that Chelsea has looked like the 4th best team in the Prem?
I could not tell you who looks like the 4th best team in the Prem. I mean,
that's fair.
I mean, honestly, it literally depends on the week. There are weeks where they look like they could get there. When they played Spurs a couple weeks ago, they looked like they were the 4th best team in the league, or they look like they could be, or maybe Spurs just suck, which is potentially true. But there's weeks where United looks like the 4th best team. There's a decent amount of weeks where Wolves look like they could be the 4th best. So I mean, it really depends on the week, but I guess realistically, yeah, I'd probably say they look like the fourth best team at the moment, which isn't truthfully saying a lot.
No, I would go against that. I don't think they have looked like the fourth best team since probably match week 10. I mean, because Chelsea got off to a really good start in the Premier League, and since then have just been kind of riding the wave of it's a clusterfuck
Yep.
behind them. So they've been kind of holding on for dear life, and now it looks like ManU have caught up, and ManU is destined to pass them in the next 5 match weeks. It looks like uh, Tottenham with Mourinho, you kind of thought they would, but they've taken a step back.
They
Arsenal
suck
with Mikel
too.
Arteta has taken a step up, so they're catching up to Chelsea, and then Sheffield and Wolves are staying right, head and head. So I think Chelsea's no, they do not look like the fourth best team, but they got off to such a hot start at the beginning of the season. I think in the first 10 games they only lost to Liverpool in the Premier League.
Well,
I think.
let me tie it. Yeah, let me tie it back into the team that they're playing in this then. So obviously, you guys are saying Chelsea probably doesn't necessarily look like the fourth best team. Do we think Leicester City looks like the third best team, though? Because I would argue that both of those teams don't necessarily, especially recently, look like top four Premier League teams.
Yeah, looking at the form, both of them are in. No, they do not look like number 3 and 4. But the same thing with Leicester as Chelsea. Leicester started the season off really well, and they rode that wave longer than Chelsea did. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that Leicester hasn't been the third best team this season because they obviously have, but in the last, I mean, pretty much since Jamie Vardy stopped scoring 8 weeks ago, they've been out of form. The team completely.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, yeah, I think Leicester City looks like the third best team in the league, but like they're dropping into that clusterfuck of no one knows what they're doing anymore. Like it's pretty much these guys are all finding other competitions to worry about now since they know they're not winning the league. So I think a lot of the focus has gone to other competitions. So
Yeah,
hopefully that kind of shows in this one.
I would
So
definitely
we get some
generally
decent good.
agree.
So we get some good football.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment for sure. But I think if teams definitely do need to be careful in that kind of pack area outside of Liverpool and City, because there is a lot of room that if you don't pay attention too much, you can just lose your spot for sure. So it'll be interesting to see for sure. But the next team that we had on this list for the quarterfinal games was City, of course, Manchester City, who we just spoke a ton about in the Manchester United versus Manchester City preview. But then also the excuse me, also the
Game against
Newcastle.
Newcastle.
Yes, the game against Newcastle. Wow, completely lost my train of thought there. But yeah, so I don't know. Obviously, we talked a bunch about City. Do either of you have anything fun to say about Newcastle that can get me excited for them potentially beating Manchester City in the FA Cup?
Well, they're not going to beat Manchester City, but they do have Miguel Almiron, who is their top leading scorer this season, and he came from MLS.
Yeah, that's definitely fun.
But
But
that's about it. That's about all I got for you.
do we think Manchester City is looking to win the FA Cup right now? Like, do we think
I'd say
Manchester
so.
City will put out a very what I would call a relevant side to beat Newcastle?
Yeah.
They'll put out a side that's going to be way better than Newcastle. It might, I mean, yeah, they might not play their best 11, but they'll
No.
mix in guys
Right.
from their 11. They'll mix Phil Foden in there.
Phil
It,
Foden's a
they're
dog.
Yeah, they're not going to throw anybody out there who they don't think is going to get the job done effectively. Even if they were, same goes if they were playing United or Chelsea in the FA Cup, they're not going to throw out their best 11 because it's the FA Cup and they still have to worry about Premier League and Champions League. But they're going to put out a side that should win the FA Cup.
Yeah. Well, so I guess I'll ask one more question, and I've asked this question before in a couple other matchups where normally it's like one team who's really good and one team who, like, seems like they'll be the team that will lose the game. Is there a way, or what is the way that Newcastle could find a result against City in this game? Do you guys think?
There definitely is a chance. I mean, there's the final 8. We're talking one game. It's not over 2 legs. We're talking one game. If City put out a lineup that lacks in midfield creativity with De Bruyne's injury, and if they just put out guys who might not be as creative, or They put out a front three that hasn't synced well together. Newcastle's going to put out their best 11, and Newcastle's best 11 is pretty solid. So if they catch City's not best 11. If they catch City's rotation players on a bad day, Newcastle absolutely can win this game. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a closer game. I think this could be a close game midway through the second half before City potentially open it up.
I would say for narrative's sake as well, Newcastle right now in the Premier League are in a spot where they're not going to make top 6, and they're 8 points out of relegation right now, so they're fairly comfortable right in the middle of the pack. So they definitely are looking at domestic cups as far as it being like all to play for at this point. So, Corbin, any thoughts before we move on? Or
I would say the one way that I think Newcastle has a chance is just don't let City get into the flow of passing the ball around. Just like, even if that means you're fouling every 30 seconds, just so they can't get a rhythm going, and they can't start making runs in behind, or they can't start moving around and moving you up. I think that's the way that they're gonna have to win this game. Is they're gonna have to disrupt the flow. I mean, a person like John Joe Shelby is going to work really well in this game, because he's just going to go in there. He's going to hack Phil Foden, and that's going to be it. And Phil Foden's not going to be able to play because he's just not going to be able to stand half the time.
Well, okay. Let's move on to the third one on my list here, which, of course, is Norwich versus United. Obviously, again, United was the other team we talked about in the United versus City preview, so we don't have to touch too much on them. But I am going to ask a question that has nothing to do with this game, but has a lot to do with Norwich. Because, of course, Norwich is the bottom of the Premier League, 21 points in 29 games so far this season. Definitely looking like they're pretty much shoring up themselves to get relegated. They're 4 points behind Aston Villa, who is in 19th. So my question to you guys, and this is going to be a complete hypothetical, more fun, because I really don't want to talk about how they're going to play against Man United, because it's probably going to be terrible. So my fun question for you guys is obviously at the start of this year, one of the craziest things was Timo Pukki winning Player of the Month for the very first month of the Premier League season. And obviously Norwich is going to be relegated, it seems like. So do you guys think that Timo Pukki in the summer transfer window will get a move to a Premier League team that isn't relegated?
I have a decent amount to say on Norwich City.
Okay, well, we'll do that, but answer my question first.
No, I don't think Timo Pukki is going to be on a Premier League team next year, just because he is in his 30s now. And since that incredible opening month, he has scored, 3 goals since then?
Yeah, so he currently sits at 11 goals in 27 matches.
No, no, he won't be, because he's not the quality. He had a fantastic run of games, but he's a 30-year-old who at the end of the day is going to finish the season with 12 goals max, probably.
Yeah. All right. So what is your thoughts on Norwich, though?
Yeah, so a few days ago, I was talking to my brother, and he was just like, I haven't been watching much soccer this year. It's just like every time I turn on a game, it's teams I don't like watching. And he goes, like, the other day I was watching, or one of the games on TV was Norwich City. I'm like, I love watching Norwich City. Because on that note of who they have, because they're going down, who they have that's going to be in the Premier League next season, they have a number of guys. It seems like this team should be pretty decent. Todd Cantwell, Emiliano Buendia are 2 guys I think inevitably are going to be on Premier League teams next year. Todd Cantwell, for sure, he is all but certain to be on a Premier League team. And then Buendia, and they have Max Aarons in the defense. They have, what's his name? I think it's Jamal Lewis. It's the one I'm thinking of. Not rock solid defenders, but they're good players that should be picked up by Premier League teams. So this team, every time I watch them, I'm like, they have such good individual talent. It's just something with the tactics, something with the manager isn't clicking. So I love watching this team because they have good players, and Todd Cantwell will likely be on a good team next year. I know.
Well,
find a good team for me.
I can speak from Arsenal fan perspective. I wouldn't personally want him, but there are Arsenal fans who, this dude's got fucking talent. I would not mind him being on
a little high.
Arsenal. Yeah, it's unreal. It's not something that
I think it's a little high.
It's not something that I would personally enjoy, but it just shows that fans, and I'm telling you, I'm sure as United look for Jack Grealish and James Maddison, as those fall through, Todd Cantwell's name will be on a list. Like, well, we can get him for 35 mil, whereas we'd have to pay 120 mil for James Maddison.
I
Well,
think
and I think there's one thing that's important to note too, and this just isn't just in soccer. It's really in any sport or any form of competition that players can be good and just not work in the system that they're in, which I think, to your point, is kind of what you were saying, like where these players, at least in your opinion, seem like they're decent enough or Premier League quality players, but the team just does not work with all these players together.
And I want to clarify that, because obviously every team that gets relegated, they have a few guys that are Premier League quality players. Or I shouldn't say always, usually, but for some reason, this Norwich team to me has been more exciting than like West Ham and Brighton and Southampton, who are out of the relegation zone. It's just something about these players. Maybe they're younger players. I mean, Todd Cantwell's in his young 20s. Wendy, I think, is in his young to mid 20s. Max Aarons is young 20s. So there's just something exciting about them that makes me want to turn on a Norwich City game, for better or for worse, because they end up losing all of the games I'm watching.
Yeah, so on the note of Todd Cantwell specifically, I'm reading a article from The Sun, published 20 hours ago, says that Spurs and Man United to rival Liverpool and Todd Cantwell transfer chase.
you guys can have him.
After Norwich,
I'm telling you, this dude, he's as skinny as me.
Matt, dude, I watch him. He's good. He's quality.
A good player. He won't start for any of those teams. I'm not saying he's starting.
Tottenham, MANU, and Liverpool apparently all looking for a shot at the Cants. That's what they call them.
Really?
They don't call him that.
I'm not saying he's starting quality. Obviously, for Liverpool, he's not even close to starting quality. But for ManU and Tottenham, he would be a good role player who you can plug in when injury, when fatigue takes into place, and you can trust him for most.
And only
games.
And literally turned 22 2 weeks ago.
His name, he's not as flashy.
Just turned 22.
His name is not as flashy as James Maddison and Jack Grealish, but James Maddison for the last 8 to 10 weeks has been bang average. Jack Grealish at the beginning of the season was slightly above average. Todd Cantwell in the last half of the season, in these last 12, 13 match weeks, has been as good as those guys for specific runs.
I mean, Liverpool's actual team website posted an article a week ago, or linked an article from the Daily Mirror that basically, the article is literally called Liverpool Step Up Bid for Todd Cantwell. So apparently it's very known at this point that Liverpool is actively pursuing him, as it was posted by their own website.
That is, I would love to see how much he's going. The rumors are for his.
I don't know. They said stepped up bid, but I didn't see a number on that article. I could try and find one though.
I would have to imagine it's no more than 35.
He's an English player in the Premier League. It could be up to 50. That market.
I mean, look at what you guys bought for 75, Corbin.
80, thank you.
Excuse me.
Harry, it's English players, Premier League players. For some reason, there's just an inflated price, and Todd Cantwell is both an English Premier League player. So if he's staying in the Premier League, which he is, I could see him going for upwards of 50 mil. I would not pay that much for him. I would say no more than 30, 35 for him. But those teams have the money, and Norwich City's going to want some money for him.
So I'm not seeing a number. I mean, transfermarket.com or .us is that site that a lot of people use to look at approximate value and things like that. And they have him listed at $16.5 million. Which is about 20 million euros. So I assume that they're going to end up paying more from that, because normally you overpay than the value of the player. So it seems like 25, 35 million in that area is kind of what it looks like people are saying. So
if he keeps up this good run of form, that's going to keep increasing as the season goes along.
For sure. All right. Well, does anyone? I guess we'll keep going with the string of predictions. So, does anyone in here have any reason they would predict Norwich to beat Manchester United?
Everything I just said Yes.
If everything that Matt said for the last
Like-
5 minutes
Like I
comes
said
true,
with the Newcastle versus City game, one game you're throwing Newcastle and Norwich are throwing their best teams out. United and City are throwing out not their
I mean,
starting
we've definitely
11.
seen it.
And
Yeah.
United, and as opposed to City, United, when they're not throwing out their best 11 and when they're not at their best, United isn't great. And I think,
Definitely does look a little shaky for sure.
yeah, I think Norwich can come out and win this. I'd hate to see a semifinals of United, City,
I mean,
Chelsea, and Arsenal, just for traditional big
yeah.
six.
Well, I would say to your point as well, Matt. I mean, the FA Cup is definitely like not known for it, but I feel like the FA Cup is almost like, I mean, literally known for like having
Yeah.
teams who aren't as good winning it consistently because
Getting
like
deep into it.
they just go, they go deep and then they just go all in and they're just
Yeah.
like, obviously like the very obvious one is West Brom the year they got relegated but beat City in the finals because it's like they literally were they were actually in the process of getting relegated out of the Prem, but they're like, let's go all in, win the FA Cup, and sail away into the second division.
And you want to talk about a matchup where there's one team who has nothing to lose and another team who's dead focused on two other competitions. I mean, Man United in the top
Right.
four race in the Premier League and in Europa League.
And Europa
Those
League,
both
yeah.
take priority over the FA Cup. I wouldn't
For
be
sure, yeah.
surprised if United. I'm not sure what
Throw
their
out-
immediate schedule will look like. But if they have a packed schedule coming up, I would not be surprised if United put out who's that 18-year-old outside back, Brandon Williams, along
He's not
with
terrible though.
Oh, no, you're right. For his age, he is not bad. He is a good player for his age.
However,
Yeah.
is he good enough to stop Norwich?
Yeah.
And that's
If
that's the question on everyone's mind.
And Norwich is a team with nothing to lose because they're going down. They're getting relegated. They're just going to say, you know what? Let's make a historic run at the FA Cup.
Yeah, so they actually, Matt, so fun thing, they play a Europa League game 2 days before that Norwich City game. They play Thursday, March 19th at 4 p.m. against Linz in Europa League, and then 2 days later play at Norwich.
I forgot United got the easiest possible Europa League draw. So you know what? For that, maybe they could throw out their 18-year-olds in the Europa League and bring it all against Norwich.
Yeah, well, they also play Tottenham the week before that in Prem, which I guess is a whole week. But if you're having someone play Prem game and Europa League game, like they're probably not going to play the next Saturday as well.
Yeah. So this game, though, at Norwich City, if you want to be safe, if you want to say, well, yeah, United's the better team, they should win this game. Sure, that's 70% of people will say that.
Definitely fair.
They're the favorite. They're the favorite. They're 70% the favorite probably. But Norwich at home, literally nothing to lose. It's like we lose this. Oh well, we lost to United in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup and an overall awful season. But I'll take Norwich in this game. United, so much more to focus on. Spurs and Europa League in the week. Within 7 days before this game, United have a Europa League game and play Tottenham Hotspur. I'll take Norwich in this game.
You are so drunk. It's
Norwich
not funny.
got this. What was the? There was a major upset. Fucking who beat Liverpool in the last? Was that Chelsea?
Yeah, it was
yeah,
Chelsea.
Yeah.
That beat
Who
him
could
in
have
the FA
predicted
Cup.
Chelsea would beat Liverpool?
I mean, when I saw the team, I thought it was possible.
And that's what I'm saying. United is going to put out a shitty team because they have
Well, they
so
did
much
not
more because they have so much more to focus on. They have Tottenham and a Europa League game within 7 days before this, and those are both unquestionably more important competitions than the FA Cup.
Matt, I'm loving this energy right now. So tell me why Sheffield is going to beat Arsenal. Okay, go.
First of all, Sheffield's better than Arsenal. I mean, they're ahead of them in the league.
It's Sheffield that will be playing the worst side in the FA Cup against Arsenal.
Oh, right.
Sheffield United can't afford to play all their starters against Arsenal in the FA Cup because they've got the Prem.
In this game.
Okay, so let's transition now actually to Sheffield Arsenal. And I mean, I realize you just talked for like a solid 5 minutes, Matt, but I'm just going to let you go ahead again because Arsenal is your team. Yeah. So go ahead and explain to us why you think Arsenal will win, and then I'll let Corbin explain to us why Sander Barge is going to destroy Arsenal.
First of all, I haven't yet said I think Arsenal is going to win.
All right, fair.
If this game against West Ham that we just played today is any indication of how we're going to play going forward, then Sheffield's going to be the favorite. I mean, we beat West Ham 1-0, but it was an unconvincing 1-0. Yeah, it's Arsenal, since I think I've said it every episode we've done this, Arsenal since Mikel Arteta took over is a completely different side, but Sheffield has been so consistent this season. It seems, I mean, off the bat, they were solid. It was like, oh, this Sheffield team's doing pretty solid. Timu Puki scoring 8 goals, but this Sheffield team is making, like, they're the newly promoted team that's making headlines. And they
That's
have
actually playing
kept,
well as a team.
and they have kept that wave. What are we, 28 matches into the season? So I think the game's at Sheffield. I think it's at their stadium.
It is.
Both teams putting out their full sides. Arsenal, maybe Aubameyang doesn't start, but Eddie and Kedia start. So it's pretty much both teams are going to be going full on for this. And Sheffield's been having a better season. Arsenal's been looking better in 2020 with Mikel Arteta. I mean, still haven't lost a domestic game in 2020. It's hard to predict. And I kind of want to see a penalty shootout. Are we at the stage where it goes to a replay still, or is it straight to penalty shootout?
We are past that.
We're past the replay.
It's penalties, yeah.
Yeah, so straight to penalty shootout. I kind of want to see a penalty shootout, but if I'm having to choose in 90 minutes, I think I'd take Sheffield like 1-0. This team, because I mean they can hold Arsenal. Last time we played, I think it was 1-1. In the last 3 months, we played them the 1-1. And if Arsenal throw out a team with like Eddie and Keddy and Reece Nelson starting, nothing against those guys, but they're not Aubameyang and Pepe, then Sheffield can hold Arsenal to clean sheet. So yeah, I think my prediction would be 1-0 Sheffield in this, but I would love to see a shootout, and this is genuinely a 50-50 game.
Well, Corbin, anything to add to that, or are you ready to go straight to predictions? Or
I'm pretty much ready to go straight to predictions. He pretty much covered anything I had to say about this game.
All right. Well, Corbin, go ahead and give us your prediction, and then just for fun, just give us a little a little side note for your prediction for this one, just because you didn't say anything about the matchup before.
I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna give it to Arsenal. I'm gonna go 3-1 to Arsenal. I know it's on the road, correct? You said that?
I think
it's at Sheffield. Okay. At Sheffield, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, so it's on the road, but I think Mikel Arteta, I mean, obviously, what else does he have to focus on? Let's be realistic.
Finishing top 4. I mean, we're still in that race. We're only a point behind Tottenham now.
That's true, but
so we're in that race, yeah.
So
but it's these two competitions.
Yeah, so they're focused on the FA Cup. I mean, Arsenal's trophy is the FA Cup. So they will throw their chips into this, and Mikel Arteta will definitely see this as a bright spot to be like, hey, this is my chance to win a trophy, and I'm going to have to go through some people, and I'm going to have to go through some teams. And hopefully he sees this as a game to probably throw out his best lineup. I would hope so. Now, at this point in time, I don't think the best lineup includes Lacazette anymore.
It doesn't.
I also don't know if it includes Ozil anymore.
It does, yeah, it is. Ozil is still starting 11 under Arteta.
All right, that's fair. I would say Ozil, I mean, he is one of my favorite players, but he's inconsistent now, and I don't like it. But, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go Arsenal and penalties, actually, because I want to see Sander Berge go off. And I'm going to say Sander Berge scores a brace in this game because just because I want to say that.
Sander Berge a brace.
From holding midfield.
Oh, okay.
It's not going to happen, but it rolls off the tongue nicely.
It feels good. It feels good to say.
Yeah.
So Corbin's sticking to it.
When Sander Berge scores a goal in the first 10 minutes, I'm just going to be like, oh my God, it's actually
his heart's going to be beating a little bit.
Definitely gonna be hitting different for sure.
And I'm gonna be upset when he doesn't play.
Well,
is that all we have for today?
Pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
I want to say I did post on Twitter a poll: who's the better player right now, Zlatan or Carlos Vela? So find that on.
Yeah, definitely make sure to go to our Twitter at 5InTheMidfield. That's the number 5 in the midfield, and go vote on that poll for sure. Because I think that's definitely one of the most heated topics we've had in this show currently through our 6/7 episodes. So
such a bitch.
definitely excited to hear how that poll ends up. But for now, again, guys, if you do want to follow us on Twitter at 5inthemidfield, that is the number 5 in the midfield on Twitter. That's where we post notifications for all our content, and then on top of that, obviously, most of us are just live tweeting games and things like that, giving our thoughts and opinions on everything that's going on. Normally as it happens. So without further ado, that'll be the end of the episode for today. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you on the next episode.